Hello, my friends. I am going to create a video that is some work that I've been doing in multiple schools. Several of our schools are getting ready for test prep and they're wanting to do some practice. One of the things that we've noticed is that students haven't had a lot of time analyzing literature in order to write a brief literary analysis. And that's something that we know we will see on high stakes assessments. So I put something together that will show you how to plan for it, how to teach it, and get your students ready for those high stakes assessments. But also know that this is a good life skill. So it's something that is transferable. I will be talking today about how to use it in other areas, and hopefully you'll walk away with some stuff. So let's get started. Got my document camera here. So I have our comprehensive standards guide. So you have access to this. Your district purchased this for you. So you have every single standard, which I know you know this, unpacked. I started with, I'm doing this particular video for fourth grade. So I started by pulling that writing standard about drawing evidence from literary or informational text to support our analysis, reflection, and research. So this is a writing standard. And what I did, you're going to notice mine is all marked up, is I took some time to dig into it, probably 10 minutes or so. So not a terrible amount of time, but something that you're able to do in your PLC. And I noticed some things. So what I love about the progressions is, remember, it tells us implicitly what students need to know, understand, and be able to do, and explicitly what they need to know, understand, and be able to do, and a progression so that they can get toward mastery. So it tells us what are some things we need to do in order to get students toward mastery on this standard. So the first thing that I noticed was that students need to read closely. They needed to record information while they were reading. They need to identify an opinion or an idea about a topic, subject, or text, and they need to draw evidence from literary or informational text. I decided to go with literary text. So I want to share with you here, I have kind of a list of what I did. So the first thing I did was I studied our comprehensive standard guide, W49, fourth grade. And then I made a decision because as I was studying this, what I know is it's based on fourth grade reading standards in literature or down here in informational text. I made the decision to do RL43 characters, and I made that decision because this is something that's complex, and I wanted something that would be low-hanging fruit for students to grab onto, and students really connect with characters. So the next thing that I did after that, since I made my decision, what am I going to do? A lot of times in literature, I would choose characters, I might choose summary, that kind of thing, then making us summarizing, determining theme. So I would either do something around characters or something around theme when I'm doing this kind of work likely. So I decided to do characters. So I pulled out that that comprehensive standard guide progression on RL43. You have this if your district has purchased this, and so you have this available. And what I did was I started looking at information from that to start helping me think about what do I need to teach in order to get students here at that level. So some things that I noticed from the RL43 Comprehensive Standards Guide was that students need to identify characters, the traits, motivations, feelings, and those responses to events. All right. So when I'm teaching students to read closely and record information while reading, these are some of the things that I'm going to be teaching them to gather evidence on. right? So again, here I need to be able to support my analysis. So in order to do that, students need to use evidence to describe characters. So see how that's clear up here? They need to use evidence to describe the character traits, motivations, or feelings. And they need to be able to explain how a character's actions contributed to a sequence of events in a story. Well, you might wonder, where am I getting this information? Again, that's not all available inside this particular standard. That's where we have to draw upon other standards to understand what students analyze, what kind of information they need to gather while they're reading, and how we need to set their intentions while they're reading closely. So as I was thinking about that, I had to make a couple of decisions about instructional strategies and instructional practices. So what you're going to notice here is that for supporting reflection, I decided to do a character-based summary. Decided to do that first. There's different kinds of summaries we teach kids how to do. Character-based summaries, character trait-based summaries. We can also do theme-based summaries. This is something we work with schools with all the time. Based summaries. My good friend, Dr. Fowler, taught me all about this, so don't you love? But we would not use RL43. We would look at RL42, although we would draw on information from RL43. This is just me nerding out, but you don't need to know. I'm just sharing with you. Doesn't pertain to right this moment. But when we're doing this character-based summary, if you've done this with me before, I added an additional question in order for us to meet this particular learning target that students would need to identify an opinion about a subject. Again, because we did characters. Characters are easy to draw from. Okay, so let's keep moving. So that took about, I don't know, I was by myself and I do this all the time. So that probably took me 10, 15 minutes. In a PLC, you could probably do it in about 15, 20 minutes, make a really strong decision. Now, I'm going to talk with you about a lesson that you can teach. You would teach it the first time, and then you could use this same process 2 or 3 more times with other text, okay? So the first thing that I did was I needed to make some instructional strategy decisions to support students in the process. So the first thing that I decided was I need to use an engaging digital text. I chose that because kids connect with it and they love digital text. Usually they tell stories in really fast, quick ways. They're quicker than a text. And typically they're filled with good characters. So since I was doing a character-based summary, I wanted to choose a text that had really strong characters. And I chose a text that had 2 strong characters so I could model with one character and then the students could write about the second character. So I could model with one and then they could try using the same text, and we've gathered the same evidence. So I chose Snack Attack. There are hundreds of other ones out there that you can choose from. So before we got started, I want to teach students note taking and how to take notes quickly. So I'm not really teaching it. Probably a better word would be reminding. Hopefully this is something you've taught students again and again. So it's just us reminding them. So here is a quick way that I will show students, like, here's some different ways you can take notes. Remember, we've done T-charts where you can do compare and contrast ideas. We're going to have 2 characters in our digital text that we're going to be watching. So you might do one for one character and the other for another character. Another way we can take notes is that we can do sketch notes. So you kind of sketch out who the character is and then write some ideas around it. Sometimes people draw a map and they write ideas around that. These are things that you've tried before too. Many students might do like a web. So they might put a character on the inside and kind of what's happening around the web, or write down big events that happened in the text. Let me show you some examples of different types of notes students took when they were watching this particular video. So here's an example of some notes that a student took. So she quickly wanted to sketch out the characters and then labeled information about the events. Another person wanted to do events and then what was happening with the character, okay, during that time. So there are lots of different ways that you can take notes. So that would be one thing that I would tell students. And then the next thing I would do is I would show students the questions that I would be asking them to answer in the character-based summary, though, the way they're going to do the analysis. So information they're going to want to look for is like, what does the character want? What gets in the way? How does the character respond? What is the outcome? Why does this make you think blank about the character? So again, remember, we have to remind ourselves what's the purpose of what we're teaching. And so we're going to be writing an analysis, right? And they need to identify in this analysis an opinion and be able to draw evidence, support analysis, and their reflection in their response. Okay, so that would be what you're going to do. Next steps, sorry about that, is that you would view a section, part, or an event in the text. This is important. I want you to pause the video, allow students to turn and talk. What did you notice? What just happened? Allow them to take 60 seconds to turn and talk with somebody about this. Why do I want you to do that? Because it helps them process their thinking. Give them that 60 to 90 seconds to each talk about what just happened. What'd you just see? Great. Now I want you to take notes. And in front of students, I even sit down and take notes too. So on my document camera, I'll be jotting down ideas like fast and furiously right now. And then you're going to do that same process until the text is finished. Remember, it's a digital text and it's literally less than 5 minutes. So you can do this entire process here, my poor pen is dying, in less than 15 minutes. Okay? They should get through the entire text, have turn and talk three or four times, and taken notes 3 to 4 times until they finish the text. Then you, as the teacher, are going to take your notes and then model how you can use the information from answering these questions together as a class. We're going to do interactive writing, and we're going to write a literary analysis. Okay, so the first thing I know about literary analysis is that we have to kind of make a statement, like, what do we believe? And so this is an example of a literary analysis done in a 4th grade class that we had done interactive writing wise. So meaning I held the pen and wrote, they all shared their ideas quickly, and then we composed this text together. The old lady in the short film Snack Attack is judgy. Do you see that opinion there? From the moment she sat on the bench, she shows how annoyed she is at the teenager. See how this is evidence here that's kind of just like helping us get there? It's not really evidence yet for the text, because here's where we get into it. She notices him on his phone and listening to music, plopping herself on the bench. She's rolling her eyes and sighing. She rolls sorry about that, her eyes and size. That's the great thing about interactive writing. We can work together to make that happen. So another example, see how we're using transition words and we're helping kids identify that language that we want them to use. Another example of her being judgy is when she assumes he was eating her cookies. She stood up and pointed her finger at him, yelling in his face. Remember how we looked here? We needed students to draw evidence, support their analysis, and support their reflection. We're drawing from this, pointing in his face. Finally, the teenager shared the very last cookie with her, and she smushed it to pieces. She threw down the container and stomped off to the train. When on the train, the old lady grabbed her ticket out of her purse and noticed her container of cookies was there all along. It was then she realized she was wrong. So we were able to identify and support our thinking. We supported our reflection by drawing evidence from the text. We supported our analysis by drawing evidence from the text. And we didn't do research on this. Well, we were kind of researching, but it was on literary versus informational text. So literature. So we did that as an interactive writing. This entire thing, this entire lesson here can be done in a single class period. I've done it in classes in elementary. I've done a lesson similar just like this, just with different texts in middle school. And I've even done it in high school. So I've done this lesson in 42-minute period. So anyone can use this same lesson, but they likely would want to switch out that digital text. So after that, I would ask students to do an independent analysis on the second character so they could practice it immediately. Now, if you're not comfortable with that, you could do partners and have them just practice immediately. To kind of continue this thinking, do it again the next day. And then maybe that second time that you do it, choose a different digital text, and then maybe try it a third day and try it with a short story. And then students on the fourth day could do it independently, and that'd be a great thing for you to take a grade on and for you to see what students are able to do independently. And what I just recently did in a district was we sorted students into 3 groups, like they aren't there yet, like a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, based on our progressions, right? And then we were planning and pulling students for intervention groups so that we could help them just get really good and feel really confident in this. I hope you found this video helpful. Have a great day.